Hi, my name is Amy DeMarco, and I am teaching a lesson on identifying primary and secondary sources. This lesson was developed for a 9th grade social studies class. Objective. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to determine if a source is primary or secondary. When you see the notebook, that slide has a corresponding worksheet activity. Compare and contrast. Please stop the video and take a few moments to read each excerpt and write down some observations on your worksheet. Okay, now here are the definitions of our new vocabulary words. Primary source. A primary source is a document or object that is contemporary to an event. The source was created during the event in question. For example, newspaper articles, letters, film footage of an event, or photographs of an event. Secondary source. A secondary source is a document or object that is removed from the event. The source was written much later than the event itself. For example, newspaper articles are written years after an event, a documentary about the event, a book written about an event. Now, can you tell which excerpt is a primary source and which one is a secondary source? Please pause the video and take a few moments to write the definitions of the vocab on your worksheet. How do we know? Why is the first excerpt a primary source? Why is the second one a secondary source? Primary source. A primary source is written or created during the time of the event. It gives an insider's view of the event, and the author experienced the event firsthand. Whereas with a secondary source, it's written or created much later than the event, and it gives an outsider's view of the event, and the author is interpreting the event rather than experiencing it firsthand. These are some questions to ask when identifying whether a source is primary or secondary. Now, let's play detective and use what we've learned so far to identify some sources. Our first source is The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. And this is a memoir of Mr. O'Brien's time in Vietnam. So this is a primary source. Our next source is the Zapruder film, which is footage of JFK's assassination. This is also a primary source because this is live footage of the event happening. Our third is a recording of FDR's fireside chats. And since this is a recording of him actually giving his fireside chats, this is also a primary source. And our final source is The Devil's Disciples, Hitler's Inner Circle by Anthony Reid. This would be a secondary source because this is the author's interpretation and analysis of Hitler's Inner Circle. Now let's stop the video and try the examples on your worksheet. Wrap up. So today we learned the difference between a primary and secondary source. A primary source is a document created during a particular event or period, whereas a secondary source is a document that's created after or about a particular event or period. Well, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Until next time, keep up the great work.